Yeah.
Unique New York.
Unique New York.
Awesome. Cam, thank you very much for doing this today.
For sure.
Excited to talk to you. So I'm with Cameron Patrick, who is the co-founder, among other things, the co-founder of Liina Inc., which is a food service manufacturing company. Heard just a little bit about that, but really looking forward to hearing the whole story and just your story in general. And then in addition to that, because startups aren't busy enough, you do Ironmans competitively.
Yeah, I do.
Getting married very soon. So I guess not bored, I would assume.
Yeah. It's every day is just a little pretty intense and chaotic, but it's okay.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks very much. So I guess the first thing, we sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but Liina is your company that you co-founded. When was that?
We founded it, my business partner, John, and I, we founded it during COVID, 2020.
That's an easy time to start a business.
Yeah, it was, we were both working our jobs before. I was in derivatives trading. I worked for a few hedge funds, and then my business partner was doing investment banking. We kind of realized we didn't necessarily want to do that forever.
Right.
And so at the time, I had gotten really into triathlons and Ironmans, and I read a book by a famous podcaster now, actually, Rich Roll.
Okay.
And his claim to fame was he did 7 Ironmans, 7 days in a row on all 7 islands of Hawaii.
Wow.
And during that training period, he had talked about consuming spirulina as part of his training regimen.
Huh.
And I just thought that was pretty interesting. And
just the 30 seconds on spirulina.
Yes.
It's an algae?
So spirulina is an algae. It's one of the healthiest things that you can eat.
Okay.
And I was just trying to be healthier. I was definitely in a work hard, play even harder kind of time in my life in trading and finance. And then I'd gotten really into training and just taking care of myself a little bit.
That's awesome. And what made you, were you always like a workout guy? Were you always I just kind of did the stereotypical, going to the gym and, run 20 minutes, bench, hit the weights. Curls for the girls.
Yeah, exactly. As we all do. And then, I always, it was just getting hard to kind of judge, like what the progress is or how to make progress in doing that. And so I just wanted something that I could compete against myself a little bit. And so, I got really into training for triathlons, and then through that process,
you had not done long distance running, swimming, or biking prior?
No, I wasn't. I would say I was a pretty not gifted athlete, but I always felt like I had the good work ethic and a good mind to maybe, get through things.
Yeah.
But obviously when you're growing up, you can have a strong will, but if you're not very talented, you won't go very far.
So I don't know about that.
I guess I mean it more like, I played baseball, through high school, and I was a pretty good golfer. But I just didn't have the kind of skills to, be able to play in college.
Right.
And so, I read this book by Rich Roll, and he kind of inspired me to, train and do this triathlon. And then through that process, discovered spirulina. And then my business partner and I, we launched a direct-to-consumer product. And the whole premise was trying to make spirulina taste good.
Okay.
And then...
Did you?
We did. At least I like to think we did. And then...
So what was it? Was it like a candy bar?
It was a protein powder.
Okay.
So we basically infused it with chickpea protein.
Huh.
And then...
what made it taste good? Because it doesn't taste good naturally? Or?
Yeah, it doesn't taste good naturally, but...
tastes like algae?
Yeah, it tastes like algae. But there's 2 forms of it. There's green spirulina and blue spirulina.
Oh.
And so the green spirulina is like the purest form. And then the blue spirulina is they basically like extract all the nutrients out of it. And then when they do that, it chemically turns from green to blue. And so like when you're in a smoothie bar or a health food store and you see like blue smoothies on the menu or juices that are blue, generally that comes from blue spirulina.
Okay.
And so
and that's good for you, or they stripped all the nutrients out?
No, it's good for you. They basically got rid of the smell and the consumption aspects of it that just aren't very appealing. And then you're just like ingesting the minerals and vitamins and all that.
Cool.
And then we launched this product. As anyone does, right? Built a website and hired a social media team and ran ads and did all the things. And then it wasn't that successful. If we're just kind of calling a spade, and we had we had raised some money. We raised I think $600,000 to launch it. We probably blew $400K just doing all the things I just mentioned, right? And then we realized we needed to figure out what we were going to do to start a real business.
Interesting, yeah.
And then, we started to try to sell that product to gyms and food franchises and smoothie chains to then use it on their menu and, wholesale it. But obviously, we didn't build it around like the price points that would make sense for wholesale, right? So that was another kind of discovery process. But it was eye-opening because a lot of people really liked the product and then they would tell us, hey, look, this tastes amazing, but what I really need is, a cheaper vanilla pea protein. Or what I really need is, hey, I'm buying these 3 separate products that are all brands and combining them into a powder to put into our special smoothie that our customers love. So if you could figure out how to combine all those into a single powder, then that would be really valuable. And
it's awesome that you got the feedback. That's the key.
Yeah, and we were...
Obviously, you listened to it, which is the second key. But
yeah, and we were, I think, we were just starving for revenue. And so we just said yes to everything. And then just had to go figure it out. And I think looking back now, I think there was a lot of moments that had we not said yes to everything, we wouldn't be where we are now, because it really forced us to have to go figure it out.
Yeah.
And I got to give my business partner a lot of credit for that. I mean, he very much kind of drove the the car forward on, kind of making that work. But
that's awesome.
But yeah.
So let's go to this time. So it's like what, 2021, COVID's going on.
Yeah. 2021.
You're in the pit. I guess the pit was closed.
Yeah, the pit was closed then, but yeah, essentially trading in a quiet pit with 14 monitors. Yeah.
And you go out for a beer or something. Well, no, not at that time. You just had a Zoom meeting with your buddy, and you're like, "Hey, let's start a thing."
Yeah. I mean, how do we start it?
Yeah.
So I grew up with my business partner's sister.
Okay.
So I'm from Seattle.
Got it.
And then he went to school at University of Chicago.
How startup of you.
Yeah. He went to school at University of Chicago. And so during COVID, we had just kind of started hanging out a little bit, before the world shut down.
Yeah.
And so then when it did, his office was right across the street from my apartment. And so we were kind of in our, lockdown kind of bubble together or whatnot. And we had just kind of, as you do, have a few beers and just start thinking about starting a business. If we were to start one, what would we do? And it seemed like at the time starting a CPG or a brand around a health food product was the most accessible to be able to start it quickly.
Did you buy a bunch of spirulina and make stuff and try it, formulate it, or? Yeah,
I mean, essentially, yeah, we went to Whole Foods and bought it.
Really? That's cool.
And then we're, making recipes in my kitchen and stuff in my studio apartment. Awesome. And
are you a chef? Or are you
No, we're just
culinary guy, or?
We were just kind of trying to figure out what would taste the best.
Wow.
But
that's cool.
but as we realize, right? I mean, creating in your kitchen is one thing.
Yeah.
Creating like a commercially viable product that's
and the regulations, all that
everything.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So when did you jump ship from your job? I mean, trading is like a lucrative thing. Investment banking is lucrative.
Yeah.
It's a big, it's not a small move to be like,
yeah,
I'm just going to stop making any money. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. And I think we didn't do it all at once. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think sometimes the perception is, when you see, someone was in consulting and then they, gave up their whole life and then started, some very successful company overnight. Like those scenarios do happen. Mm-hmm. But for us, we were working on it in the background a lot. So we would, go to our jobs in the morning. I mean, my job was a little bit, the hours were a little bit better just because you're working market hours. Investment banking is a little bit different because you're working 18 hours a day.
All of them.
24 hours a day. And so like in the background, we were working on it. Huh. And so we had gotten to the point where we had, a product that we could at least take to investors and have them try it to go pitch the product to be able to raise money.
Wow.
And then as we were raising money, investors, asked us basically, why haven't you quit your jobs yet? When are you going to quit? And so then at that point, you had to make the leap because no one's going to, write you a check for $50,000 or $100,000 if you're still working your job. But, but I think it's a key point. I think you can, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think sometimes,
but then you're working double time.
A little bit. Yeah.
Nothing's free. You're either not working.
Yeah.
Or you're working two jobs.
Yeah. So,
which is,
and then, I mean, it's,
So you guys say, okay, we're going to do this. Like how many months transpires before you go to the state and form an LLC or whatever, and then you go to investors? How's that? Yeah.
So I would say it was probably maybe 6 to 8 months. No, maybe closer to a year, honestly. I think we were probably working on it for about a year. So I think we incorporated in at the end of 2019. And then I think we ended up quitting, I think 2021, like August or
because you're like, this is a very stable time in history, so let's quit our jobs.
Of 2021, I think is when we quit.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, it was.
That's a lot of risk.
It was a lot of risk for sure.
I mean, it's 4 years ago, so maybe it's. There's definitely. I mean, did you have? What was your mentality when you do this, and you're like, you're thinking about the upside, or you wouldn't do it, but you got to contemplate the downside.
Yeah.
And how did you balance the risk in your head at that time?
I think I knew that if it didn't work out, I could get another job in trading.
Okay.
I think that was at least what I told myself to justify the jump. And I think... Was there any apprehension, or you're like, this is my calling and I don't care? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely doubts. I mean, you just, I was at a time where I feel like had I continued on that path, it would have worked out well. Mm-hmm. And I was very driven and motivated to try to make it work.
Yeah. I
think it was also a career that I was dead set on getting into when I graduated college. And, you don't have a lot of life experience at that time, right? You kind of, you think what it is that you want to get into because either, you're around it or you read about it, but you don't have any, life experience on, is that something that fits my personality? Do I enjoy it? Am I good at it? Do I excel at it?
That's a really good point. I mean, I think that happens to a lot of people. And I think it's important not to say, okay, well, this is what I decided when I was 22 years old, and now that's what I got to do, and I got to figure it out how to make that work, even if it's really not what's fulfilling me. I think that's important you can pivot any time of your life.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
And I would say I was good at trading. I wasn't phenomenal at trading.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I didn't want to admit that for a long time, but looking back now, it's clear and I'm, okay with it, but,
Right.
but it taught me some amazing things, right? Like it taught me how to, think for yourself. It taught me how to manage risk. It taught me how to, be very accountable for your own actions. I mean, especially in the markets, it's like you have no one to, no one to blame but yourself. I mean, you get evaluated, every day, every hour, essentially, right? So,
yeah, and that's a lot of stress. I mean, you're
for sure
every hour of the market being open, you're just sitting there biting your nails, hoping it goes the way you plan, right?
Essentially. We traded a very complex kind of arbitrage strategy, and it was very much. I always kind of felt like I was in flight or fight, or flight or fight.
Yep.
And I think just over time, I just knew I didn't want to, feel that way all, just every waking moment of every single day.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the perception or the stereotype of trading is like, you're high strung. You're like this frightened squirrel all day. Like, and, I mean, God, I wouldn't want to be trading now.
Yeah. I'm sure some of my old buddies been having some sleepless nights.
Yeah. But you never know when it's going to happen. But so then how does the stress, what's the difference between that stress and now the stress of like, hey, I'm on my own. Like if this doesn't work, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I think, it's just my experience, right? But when I, cause I was in such a stressful environment every single day, then when I started Liina and just even, throughout, the uncertainty of launching our product and then pivoting and then, doing food service now and all the pivots and changes that we've made, I still just believe like if we had enough time, then had enough time to figure it out that eventually we could either pivot and find the right path or would be able to figure it out. And so, it's easy to say that now, like when you're in it and you don't necessarily have some of the certainty or, you can't see the path of it working. Like sitting here today, like we can see the path of it working because we're working on a lot of deals and we have a lot of customers and, things are really growing and moving and you can see it. So even though you're like, okay, look, we're not there yet, but you can see the path to getting there,
right? Versus
just being able to see no path.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But when I was trading it, you're very much out of control of the problems that happen to you, and by problems I mean specifically losing money.
Yeah, that's a problem in fear trading.
Like you can do everything right and still lose.
Yep.
And so that like type of dealing with that type of fear and emotion and everything that comes with it is a lot different to me, I think, than, in business where if something goes wrong, you still have a lot of control over how you can fix it or make it right.
Right.
Or learn from it to not do it again. And like that benefits you a lot later on. Mm-hmm. And the same is true in trading, but the problems that occur at a bit slower of a pace.
Right.
Too, which I actually kind of enjoy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like this concept of the time is kind of your commodity. If you're in if you can live to fight many more days, you can figure out how to win the battle.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a strategy early on? Like, hey, we're going to figure out how to just have as much runway as possible, or did you just take a swing, or did you think about it, or did it work out that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we thought about it from the standpoint of, when we raised the money that we did, where our monthly burn was pretty high because we were paying for, we had social media team and we were paying for ads and marketing and had a really fancy website and, all the things, right? But you think those are the right decisions because you think that's how it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of got to a point where, you're looking at the sales coming in and then, the money going out, and you're thinking, all right, we gotta figure something out here, right? Because we're, not gonna survive very much longer if we continue down this path. And so we basically got rid of, basically cut our monthly burn in half. Because we knew, okay, if we had, 15 months before had we not sold another dollar, if we had 15 months left, then if we cut our burn in half, now all of a sudden you got 30. And okay, that's, a little bit over 2 years. If we never sell, make another dollar.
Yeah.
So can we figure out a new path over a 2-year period to at least get some evidence that it might be working? Mm-hmm. And then, and that gives us, enough time to kind of take the day on day stress away and just kind of, buckle in and just kind of, start reaching out to customers and kind of grinding a little bit. And so that's what we did. And it
that's
paid
awesome.
off a lot.
I don't know that that's the way a lot of people think, to their detriment. I think that, the idea that you sort of have to just grow as fast as possible and spend money. Yeah. And I think the strategy, it's much more foundational. Like, we can survive and we can build, even if it's slower, but it's actually a stronger foundation. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. And it's true, I think. I mean, I think, because I just kind of looked at being successful as, hey, can we just, make it another, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then, and, eventually, you got to be realistic to, is it working? Is it not? Do you got to make another pivot or do you not?
Right. Talk about those moments. Like, so there's a bias. I think there's a natural bias to say, we just need to do this and try harder. Or when do you have those moments of like, let's change this course?
I mean, for us, it was just, we just, I think, also realized it fit our personality type more to build a more business to business wholesale business than it was to build, a very like hot, sexy, like direct to consumer brand. Right. And
that's all about trend and style and it's marketing strategy.
Yeah. And there's some very successful ones. Sure. and more power to them. I think, it's very hard to grow a successful brand. Mm-hmm. But if you can do it, it can, be pretty transformational. Yeah. But yeah, for us, it was just, we realized that, we also were very cash constrained. Right. And so we couldn't spend very much money on marketing. And so to reach out to, let's say 1,000, food service chains a month, or, sending out emails or calling people or walking into stores and asking them, what they're using, or do they need something, cheaper, or do they need ingredients for cheaper? Yeah. Just was more of a effort based thing as it was, it didn't require any marketing dollars, didn't require any money. Yep. So then very early on, when we got some orders for 50,000 here, 80,000 here, 100,000 here, then you're thinking, okay, if we get, 10 more of those, you're at $1 million. You get 20 more of those, you're at $2 million. Can you go find a chain that does $5 million? Then you're at 8, then 10, then you're like, okay, this is, let's just keep doing more of it. Right. And because we kind of extended the time horizon that we had to figure that out, then we, finally got it to a place where we had, we're courting customers and doing deals, and, because there's definitely some dark months where you're just sending emails into the, into the abyss. No one's getting back to you.
Did you ever just sit there, put your head in your hands and just be like, what the hell did we do?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about it the other day in the office. I think we had a quarter, I think it was Q3 of 2023. I think we did we did, I don't know, $4,000 or $3,000 or something. And, and I mean, we live in Chicago, so the weather is bad. It's cold, it's dark early. So you're leaving the office every day at, 5, 6 o'clock, and it's 15 degrees outside, and it's.
Yeah, those that can get lonely.
Yeah, it does get lonely sometimes. I mean, it and I think it's very important to have a business partner you can lean on. I mean, I'm getting married in May. I mean, my fiance is amazing. I mean, I definitely couldn't have done it without her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just because there's so many periods where you're just hey, like
and it's hard not to take that home too.
Yeah, it's hard for sure.
Yeah.
Or thinking maybe I shouldn't have quit, or and so I think I definitely couldn't have done it without her, and I'm very grateful.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, it's but my dad used to tell me, if you believe in it, if you truly believe in it, then you're gonna find a way to make it work. It might not be the first thing, but eventually, you're gonna figure it out. And I think it's really holds true.
If you have enough time. I think
if you have enough time.
That's an awesome concept. And I don't even know that I necessarily thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
But I think if I was to think about what can you do to maximize the success of a startup, it's give yourself time.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, in that Rich Roll book, he had a quote where it was, most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year, but vastly underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years.
That's very cool.
So that was a good one. And then I had a trading boss who told me once, if you can extend your time in the markets while everyone else around you is compressing theirs, it's a really good way to make money. And so both those quotes are kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
And so I think,
wow.
It's because you got to just keep stacking the little wins. And if your barrier for success is so high, either because you raised a bunch of money at a huge valuation, or you launch a product with a huge team and your overhead's, super crazy, then, there's a million ways to start businesses, but oftentimes now your hurdle for success is even higher because, of just how your business is set up, or the valuation that got placed on your business when you raise money, or what have you. And I think it's, you just want to be able to survive and start to give yourself a chance to figure it out, to like truly know, hey, is it going to work out? Or is it going to not? Yeah,
no, that's an amazing, and I think it's not I don't think that's the way people think when they're thinking about going out and raising money. It's like, get the highest valuation we possibly can.
Yeah.
Get the most money we can so we can go to the market and But now you've got an expectation that's way up here.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit it, even if you're doing good.
Yeah.
By all accounts.
Yeah.
If you're like, if we don't quadruple every year, this is a failure.
Yeah, it's just like where you set the benchmark, right? I mean, if you have two companies that are both selling the exact same good, but one company raises 5 times the amount of money as a different company, and they both start getting some sales velocity and growth, but the company that raised more money, it's just, you got to be, whether 5 times faster growth, or 10 times or 15 times faster growth, or what have you, to justify the money that you raise to your investors. And so, and I mean, there's certain businesses where it just requires a lot of money, right? Yeah. But most businesses aren't like that. And I think, I just think, people see what they want to see because you read the TechCrunch, or the, company A raises 80 million to, make cheese gooier, or to, or something, and it's like, man, that's, they gotta, transform that into one in a billion.
The unicorn.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you guys raised, did you think about that? Were you like, we want to get the bare minimum?
I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily bare minimum. It was more just, you know, what, and again, like, you know, there was no real science behind it other than, you know, we thought like with 600,000 or 700,000, we could be able to grow enough to then be able to, you know, get to our next round.
Mm-hmm. Did you do subsequent rounds?
No. So we raised $600K, and then, you know, we blew $400K. You know, it's expensive lesson,
right.
Expensive lessons.
Yeah.
You know, we laugh about them now, but, you know, it wasn't very funny in the moment, but,
Yeah.
and then, you know, when we transitioned to wholesale, then we were able to just get smaller deals just paid for with the cash that we had. And then, you know, once the deals like started cash flowing or we got onboarded with distributors or whatever, then we were able to, you know, just grow our company cash and then,
just,
you know,
organic.
pay for deals that way.
That's awesome.
So then, you know, at some point, you know, we you know, we're kind of getting to that point now where we're really trying to go after some big customers. So, you know, we'll have to, you know, probably figure out but at the same time, you know, if you're cash flow positive, you know, it's easier to get financing. It's easier to get a bank loan.
Yep.
It's easier to get, you know, more creative ways of cash other than raising equity to like dilute yourself even more.
Yeah, I think that cash flow thing is something people forget about. It's like you should start a business to make money.
Yeah, for sure.
More money than you started with. And yeah,
and I, you know, because you never read the articles that you're like, you know, this founder, you know, raised $200 million to finance, you know, his growth with debt, so he could give up less equity, so him and his investors and early employees don't get diluted down.
Right.
Because it just doesn't hit as much as like, you know, Series C, D, E, F. It just, you don't.
Yeah. But
the reality is that is more beneficial to like the company, employees, you know, the whole deal.
That's amazing.
But they just don't sound as good. And
no, you're right.
Those, you know,
you're right. And especially in like those sexy spaces like technology and all that. I mean, you know, everybody's just chasing the exit. And I think it was actually Steve Jobs who was like, you shouldn't start a business to sell it.
Yeah.
But I think that's become like sort of the American dream is like, I'm going to start something, code it in my basement, and then somebody's going to buy it and put it in a like closet somewhere and pay me, you know, $1 billion for it. And
and I mean, it happens. And I mean, you know, I think
like some people have become famous athletes and actors.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the chances are more or less the same. Like,
I think so. I mean, there's no like age limit for success or, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, the market, you know, you just right place, right time, you know, you took the risk and, you know, the market rewards you for it. But I think for 99% of business, you know, 99.9% of businesses, you know, that aren't, you know, a once in a generation unicorn type business, you know, no matter what the industry is, it, you know, generally you just, you know, you gotta believe in it enough to make it work and just kind of extend your time horizon long enough to give yourself the opportunity to make it work.
Yeah. That time thing, man. Time is the one thing money can't buy.
Yeah.
And that's how when I was turning businesses around, that was one of the things, like, it's very common and it's very tempting. Every year you create a budget for your PE people or whoever owns the company. And, you know, everybody always wants to see sales growth. So you build this budget with sales growth. But if you don't achieve the sales growth, you fail.
Yeah.
And so I always structured the company, if the status quo is what we maintain, we are fine. We will survive.
Yeah.
We're not going to be, you know, net losing cash or breaking bank covenants. We're going to be okay at the status quo. Then we'll figure out with that amount of resources how we're going to grow. Versus say, well, we want to grow, so we need all this overhead. And then if you don't grow, you're you're done.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big, like, it's kind of like you can't, and I think like you said, it's glamorized. Like, oh, an entrepreneur jumps off a cliff and then builds an airplane on the way down.
Yeah.
You know, okay, some of them, and the other ones just crash into the ground and die.
Yeah. Or you don't hear about the ones that like just, you know, like you're hearing about it now, but you just don't see like the 20 years that it took to get it to that point. And now like they're hitting the, you know, the jump off point or the stride or what have you. But,
interesting.
But yeah. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No, there isn't, but there's certainly ways to maximize your chances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you eat a lot of spirulina still?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And you obviously are training fanatically.
I do. Yeah.
For marathon or for Ironman.
Ironmans. Yeah. I'm doing one in June in Hamburg.
Germany?
Germany, yeah. I got a buddy that's getting married a week later.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
In Italy, so I thought, why not?
Oh,
try to do an Ironman.
Let's ruin my trip with an Ironman.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. So how does that? So now you're going on 6 years? It sounded like.
Yeah.
Doing those. How many a year is it?
I mean,
it takes it out of you. I'm sure. Like
I've done maybe. So like you have the half Ironman and the full Ironman. And then in total, I've done maybe around 9 or 10 races. I had some injuries in 2024, so I didn't race last year.
From that or from something else? Yeah,
probably just overtraining and overuse and, you know, just wear and tear on your body.
Yeah.
And so
it is hard on your body.
But yeah, I'm back now and
that's awesome.
Healthy and grateful to
Absolutely.
Be healthy and be able to do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was always a runner, and then I tore my Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
So I still run. I've run 2 marathons after that, and they were almost twice the time.
Yeah.
The first one I was in the military.
Yeah.
And like did it on a whim, didn't even train.
Yeah.
And you know, I did I would say a respectable time. It wasn't like a Boston qualifier time, but it was like 3:40, I think it was. But a guy in your 20s in the military, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then
that's fast though. What is that, like 8? It's got like 8:35 pace or something, 8:40 pace.
I didn't do the math. I just went home and ate a cheeseburger. But so then I did. I've run the Boston twice.
Oh, cool.
For a charity. I didn't qualify. I got the charity bib for.
Still there though.
Oh, it's the coolest thing. You could do one of those like in your sleep.
I've heard it's amazing experience.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The city of Boston, they just do a phenomenal job. They are supremely welcoming to all the runners. The whole thing is like a really tasteful party, kind of just a great energy, great time.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing, so for me, the first year I ran it, I think it was 2018. It was the worst weather.
It's kind of hilly too, right?
Oh, it's very hilly. Yeah, it was very hilly. It was the worst weather of a Boston Marathon in like decades. It was 35, 36, like just over freezing and pissing rain and windy the entire.
That's brutal.
It was honestly miserable. People were getting hypothermia, getting carried off in space blankets.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I did not do it fast. I was like over 5 hours.
Yeah.
And what amazed me though, so from the starting line to the finish line, there is not one stretch. There isn't 10 feet without people on the sidelines cheering.
Yeah.
And they were there all day.
Yeah.
Because by the time I finished, right, it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. The people that won, they actually started they finished before I started. So these people are out in these stands in the pouring, freezing rain, and I come across the finish line. I'm expecting them to be like sweeping and like cleaning up because it's like, oh, we didn't know there was still a guy running. And I come through and it's like I won it. Like everybody's cheering as if I'm like the fastest guy. It was just the coolest.
That's cool.
Coolest experience. So the first one I did, and then the second one was much better weather. Obviously, same experience, a little bit slower. I didn't get a chance to. I missed my long run before it, So like, I don't know, like I'm not a serious marathon trainer, but I did enough to like build up, and then like
the 20 miler.
Yeah, like I was trying to do 20 or 22. I did an 18, and then I had my mom actually passed away, so I couldn't do that one, the last one.
Yeah.
And then I hit a wall, and I've always heard of like the wall. I never ever had that experience before. It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I also like back. I mean, I feel like the nutrition for how you fuel in races now is so much different. Whereas before, no one. Before it was like eat pasta the night before and wake up and like good luck. Now it's like these. Yeah. It's 80 grams of carbs an hour, and it's so much more. At least. Dialed in to like give people a better chance.
When I tried that, right, on the last one, I tried it the hardest to do like the scientific, and I had the gel packs and all that. Yeah. And I was trying to eat one, I forget what it was, every 4 miles or something like that. They became so disgusting to me, I couldn't even eat them because they were like, they just like the first couple, I was like, oh, this is good. And then I was like, I'd rather not eat anything because it was disgusting. Not that they were bad, but just you try and eat 16 of anything, and it's like, okay, I'm over that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, like it was, and that third one, I made a deliberate note every mile to like think about my thought because I thought it would be a cool thing to write down.
Well, that's cool.
Which when it was actually, you should do it. It's a lot more thoughts in a triathlon, but it is fun because I went home. True, I went home and I wrote down like, here's what I thought about it each mile, and I started like I knew I was going to do this. I didn't realize how interesting it was going to become because I've never hit the wall, and I've done like pretty extensive training in my life, and I've always been like. You can't train and not be tired or in pain. I've always been able to just push through, and it's like a mental thing. Like the wall is physical. It's like you can't move your leg if you wanted to. Like if somebody's shooting at you, you wouldn't be able to get away from them. Yeah. And it was at mile 18, which really sucks because you still have 8 miles to go. Yeah. And like that's a long run anyway. But what was cool is I didn't give up on the whole concept of like writing down my thought at every mile. And so it started off like all rosy, like, oh, feeling good. And I was running too fast. I think that was part of it. And I was trying to dial it back, but the energy, you're pumped up.
Yeah. There's so many people on the side of the road.
And you're like, party. And you don't want to. I got passed one time. I was like, because I was getting passed a lot. And so then I'm like coming up behind this woman, and she was fit. Look, you could tell from like the back, she was like in good shape. And I was like coming up on her, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to pass one. Yeah. And so I passed her, and I realized she was like 9 months pregnant. I'm like, the only person I could pass here is pregnant. But when it got to like that mile 18, it became very mental of like, do not psych yourself out.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't think about, if you just think about like small victories, take one step at a time. Yeah. I started to walk and run. Like I couldn't even run. So I would walk, get a little energy, run as long as I possibly could. And then like I kept expecting to be happier. I was like, okay, when I get to 6 miles, I'll feel good. And I was like, oh, God. Yeah. And I was like, when I get to 2 more miles left, I'll feel good. I got to 26 miles. So I had 0.2 left, and I still was not happy. I was like, oh, 0.2 is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long way, man.
That's wild.
It's 26 miles.
Well, you're doing it though after.
Still, though, man, like it
is. It's crazy.
26 miles is still 26 miles. Like it doesn't, whether you like do it after the bike or do it on a standalone run where maybe you're running a little bit faster because you didn't do, swimming the bike before or what have you, but it's a long way to run.
So what's your times in your triathlons?
So my fastest half Ironman, I think was 4:48. But I'm trying to break 10 and a half.
So you did a half triathlon in shorter time than I did a full marathon.
Yeah. But I'm trying to break 10 and a half hours in Hamburg.
Wow.
Is the goal. And I would say the lifetime goal is to break 10 hours. That's kind of the,
I mean, you're already in a pretty rarefied air though at the 10.
Yeah. Yeah. 10 and a half is, I mean, you're fit.
It's elite.
I mean, it's elite.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's, make it to Kona is probably the kind of lifetime goal.
And what is the
Kona is like you got to qualify for it. So it's like Ironman World Championship. So it's all the best pros are there, but then in every athlete in every age group, man and woman, it's just all the best people. So you can only qualify based on your time. It's kind of like, I guess,
like Boston kind of.
Yeah, kind of like qualifying for Boston, but I don't know how many people run Boston.
I think it's 25,000, but that includes a lot of charity people that didn't qualify. I don't know how many qualifying there are.
So I think in Kona, it's like 3,000 people. So
wow, that's very elite.
You got to be elite.
Yeah.
But it's good, man. Like,
is that in your sights? Do you think you're gonna?
I think I have it in me to do it.
Really?
To break 10 hours, I think, and then I'll be at least in. Sometimes you just don't have control over like if you do it in a race where maybe it's a fast course and a bunch of people are ahead of you by because it rolls down. So like if you do an Ironman, let's say January, and you get your Kona slot, let's say then in March you and I are both in that Ironman, but you beat me, like you already have it. So then it rolls down to like the next person. Oh wow! So you kind of need some. You need like a little bit of luck on your side too, but it just keeps getting faster and faster, right? Because the training, people are just getting smarter about the training and the eating and the and the whole thing.
Even honestly, I mean, you've been doing it for 6 years. To get to that elite level is
probably takes 10 years. Wow. Back to my quote about the 10 years.
Really? Is there off time? Like because I know after a marathon, I mean, you don't go. Well, I don't. Some people, like you got to take a little bit of time to let your body recuperate. Is that? Yeah. Or are you just so freaking fit at this point? It doesn't even matter.
I mean, I am trying to get smarter about it now. I think before I just, I got injured in 2024, and then I think I realized, how much that wasn't very. It just wasn't ideal, right? Couldn't run, had, a bunch of issues. And then I just kind of realized, okay, I don't want to.
That's kind of your metaphor, actually, is like you go out, you set the bar too high, and you don't give yourself the time. Yeah. And you end up going backwards.
Yeah, a little bit. Because it's just, you're just sometimes like if you're so driven or motivated or I mean, the reality is the motivation dies like a long time ago. So you gotta just, whatever it is that's, just the process or, trying to better yourself or whatever it is that is like internally driving you.
But it's a totally a lifestyle. Like you're not going to do this on the weekends. Yeah. You have to be.
You got to do it all the time.
How much do you train for this thing?
Usually, for the Ironman, it's probably like 15 to 20 hours a week. Roughly, if you're like peak
2 hours,
it's like 2.5 hours a day.
It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time. But
when do you do? You're a morning guy, or?
I try to do it in the mornings. Yeah, I try to do it in the mornings.
What time do you wake up?
Usually 5:15. Yeah.
And then you work out for 2 hours.
Yeah, on the weekends too. Weekends are a little bit longer, but I still try to wake up at 5:30 just to get it done. Spend time with my fiance, do fun things, right? Not waste the whole day.
Yeah, I'm sure she appreciates that.
But it's good, man. Like it's taught me a lot. I think it taught me to like what I was capable of.
That's cool.
I think because I always suspected it, but unless you put it into action, you don't when push comes to shove, you just don't really know. Wow. How you're going to react or, what you're going to do. And so I think
totally,
I just put myself in, hard situations or, and then you kind of build the momentum, right? You do something that is hard, you get through it. Yeah. Then you do something else that's hard again, you get through it. And then eventually it just like momentum begets momentum, right?
Yeah.
You just kind
No,
of
that's very, very cool. I've talked to people about that because I think that mental strength is built just the same way as a muscle is. It's through repetition.
for sure.
So you want to get, bigger muscles, you put them under stress. You actually damage them. Like scientifically, you're ripping your muscle.
Yeah.
And then it heals itself, and then you can lift more and more and more. And I think it's the same with mental.
Yeah.
Anything that involves fear.
Yeah.
Is you can actually train yourself to respond to fear with more calmness or clarity or whatever, because you have done that. You've done repetitions of things that were uncomfortable but I love how you said that. Like that's really cool. Like I always suspected I could do it, and just you had to prove it. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I think it's good to just do things that are a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. They don't have to be physical. It could be, doing, trying a hobby you've always wanted to do or
100%.
Or what have you. Cause you just, everyone kind of needs because once you do it, get over the fear of doing it, accomplish it, then the growth curves can be so high in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Cause you can if you stay at it, like, cause you were a novice, and then you can make a lot of gains super quickly.
Yeah, totally.
And then it's super enjoyable during that, stretch. And then, over time, maybe you got to figure out how to, keep progressing and excelling and all the things. It gets a little bit harder, but
that's cool. I did a couple months ago, I did an open mic night.
Oh, comedy?
Playing the guitar and singing. Which I'm very much a hobbyist. Yeah. Right. But it was for that reason. I was like, I want to do something that.
It's probably pretty scary getting on stage.
It's terrifying. Yeah. Honestly. It's very nerve wracking because you really have to get over the idea like, oh, people are going to think I suck.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, people are wired to have some concern over not looking like an asshole.
Yeah. For sure.
It's like, but it was cool because it was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm not excellent by any means, but it was good enough.
Yeah.
And
the fear is real. Like I know for me, like I was always, it's something I got to work on is I'm very hard on myself when it comes to, just enjoying, the journey or how far you've come or what have you. Whereas, it's kind of a double-edged sword because if you sometimes when you think that way, it can propel you so far, right? So far, whether it's like physical and building a business, whatever it may be. But then if at some point there's like it can only be stretched so far before it it snaps. And I think I'm trying to get a little bit better at just, enjoying training for training because it's fun and, I'm just competing against myself, just realizing, okay, if, we're doing a lot of deals for the business, but just because it isn't happening on the timeline that we that we want it to happen on doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yep.
And just enjoying, hey, 3 years ago we were selling, tubs at a farmer's market, and now we're, doing huge deals with, franchises. Like it's cool, but when it's just always like the next thing, sometimes at least for me, I don't just take a step back and just appreciate like how far of a journey it's been.
No, that's super important. Actually, me and Seth have talked about that. Like with so I did when I was doing the turnaround CEO gig, it was extremely stressful.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I guess I did, but it was stressful. It wasn't fun stress. It was like physically
for
ill.
Sure.
And but then it worked, through a lot of work and grit and a lot of other things and price and luck.
Yeah.
It worked out. And then you look back on it and it's like, you look back at it like the best time of your life.
Yeah.
But I remember like thinking the same thing. Like, I wish I enjoyed it then.
Yeah.
But I think what you're afraid of is like, I don't want to enjoy this and be apathetic. I don't want to be complacent because, it's supposed to be hard. It's a great time.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. That horrible feeling is actually what motivates you to get out of it.
Yeah.
And there's you know Andrew Huberman?
Oh yeah.
He talked about if you visualize, because people talk about visualization, which I love. I love the concept of visualizing. But he was talking about if you want to do something and you want to succeed, you should not talk to people about it, and you shouldn't visualize succeeding.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to somebody, so if I'm like, I'm starting a business, naturally you're going to be like, oh, that's great, man. Good luck. That's awesome. You have guts, and it gives you a satisfying feeling before you've actually accomplished anything.
Yeah.
And so his thing was like, you should focus on the downside. Like, if this doesn't work out, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And that will actually motivate you to succeed, which is it is an interesting point. I mean, there's a balance. Like you said, and I think for somebody that's going to be ambitious, you have to figure out how to balance the stress of it.
Yeah.
And that motivating stress without becoming like complacent, like, it's a party. But yeah, it kind of sucks to go through life and just look back and be like, I was just pissed off the whole time until I made $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, and I think you got to know sometimes I think you got to know what motivates you, good and bad. Right. Because I think, and because there's, people are motivated by good things and reach incredible heights, and at the same time, motivated by, negative things that take them to extreme heights.
Right.
And everyone has a little bit of both. Yep. It's just kind of knowing like, okay, at least being aware of it enough to figure out what works for you the best, and then, deal with those emotions. But it's, but yeah, I'm just so grateful that, I made the jump. Yeah. I think now, and sometimes I'm walking home from the office, or I'm just so grateful for how my life is now.
Wow.
And
that's a great feeling.
Yeah, it is.
That's probably the best feeling. That's being rich. By any measurement, that is how I would define becoming rich. Is if you feel like that, you are a rich person.
Yeah, and I mean, a year and a half ago, I had an incident where I mean, some people know this, not everyone, but I was going out to swim super early in the morning, 5 in the I go swim in this masters swim group. Talk about humbling. I mean, here I am, pretty fit, train my butt off. You go in there and, there's people 40 years older than you, dropping you after, 200 meters. I mean, talk about humbling.
Wow.
5 in the morning going out. I live, a pretty safe neighborhood downtown. And then I was like, left my place, took a right. I was going to walk to, maybe 3 blocks down the street and then take the bus. And then it's pretty much a straight shot to this college, UIC college that has this swim group. And then, there's a, car, kind of Dodge Caravan car, super tinted windows. I had my headphones in.
You were walking?
I was walking, yeah. So I left my place, I took a right, and then it was basically 1 block to kind of this main street. And then, as I was getting on the main street to, basically walk this way, this car, unknown at the time, but basically made a U-turn and then came up on me, and then I heard footsteps behind me, and I turn around, and then the car door was open, a guy hopped out, pointing a gun right at me. I had one of those nice parka coats on, you know, because it's negative 15 degrees in Chicago in the winter.
Right.
You know, and he's like, you know, give me your coat, you know, I'm going to kill you. You know,
Wow.
and, you know, it was fucking terrifying. I mean, it was terrifying. And, you know, my dad was visiting me. So this was Monday morning. My dad had left Sunday because he visited me and my fiance Tanya for, you know, 3-4 days, just kind of hanging out. You know, and I thought, oh, like, you know, this is how fitting, right? Like my dad just left the night before, like, at least I got to say bye to him, you know, cause I thought that was it.
Holy shit. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's wild. And staring at a gun.
Staring right at it. You know, they took my coat, kind of, you know, I was on the ground, you know, just super like, hey, look, man, like I gave him my coat, like gave him my bag, like, you know, here's my phone, like, you know, just take everything. Just don't do anything. Guy goes in the car and then I'm like, all right, like maybe it's okay. Guy comes out of the passenger seat when I'm on the ground, or like driver's side seat when I'm on the ground, and then like, you know, points the gun at me. And at that point I thought, okay, this is it. And yeah, and it, you know, in that moment, you know, I remember how I felt, and I just remember, like just being proud for all the things that I took a chance on, you know, accomplished, took a chance on. Like, I knew like maybe I didn't reach all the things that I wanted to reach, or I didn't, you know, fulfill what I knew I was capable of one day, but at least I knew, like, you know, Tanya knew that I loved her, you know, my family knew, you know, I had great friends, you know, the whole thing. And it's, it scared the shit out of me, you know.
I would think it would.
And
I would think it would. That's crazy. It definitely gives you perspective.
Yeah. And so now, you know, whether we have like a, you know, business deal goes south or, you know, all those things. I'm not saying that it doesn't, you know, I still get the stresses of day-on-day life, but, you know, but then I, you know, after I kind of absorb those and realize, then I just think back about how much those things, you know, don't quite matter as much as just like being able to, you know, be around, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, that is true, man.
You know, like I'm getting married in May, and just like it's wild to think that like I almost, you know, wouldn't have made it to that. And I'm.
So then they just left.
Just hopped back in the car and drove off.
Damn.
What's crazy is it happened in front of a really famous bakery in Chicago.
Really?
And like right around the corner from my place. And it's wild, right? Like a Saturday morning. You know, granted it was, you know, it's happening at 5 a.m. But
still,
you know, 7, 8, 9 in the morning, you know, there's like 50 people like, you know, waiting in line for bagels and tea and coffee. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is crazy.
That's wild.
But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to have especially that vivid recollection of the thought process that was going on.
Yeah.
Is again, it's kind of valuable.
Yeah.
You know, and because I've had similar things, obviously between the military. Now I haven't. It's different, and I sort of don't think it's the same actually, even the same level, because part of it is if you're in a war zone, you'd sort of expect to be.
Yeah, you're on heightened alert.
And you also have other people around you.
Yeah.
There's a plan. You have equipment. You also have a gun.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing, like I had at the advice of one of my elders, you know, the chief of my platoon.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a letter. I don't know if that's common practice. I think it is.
Yeah, just in case.
You know, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Really, to be like, you know, I enjoyed myself and don't miss me. It's like,
yeah,
it's heavy, but again, you have time to process it. That's like a split second. Like, oh, I'm gonna go swim with some old guys to like, holy shit. Like,
you don't think anything of it. I mean, and I think, until something, now, I mean, my God, it's like, I'm looking to my, every,
Did you have like any sort of PTSD or anything like, cause I would imagine that it would be natural to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I probably did.
Yeah.
I mean, not a day goes by where I don't think about it at least once.
Yeah.
Did
they like apprehend the people or they just?
Yeah, they never caught them.
Off?
Yeah, they never caught them. But someone's walking out there with a very nice coat. Yeah.
At least they're warm, I suppose.
I remember maybe 4 weeks ago, my fiance and I were walking around downtown, and somebody walks by in a coat that looks similar to mine, and then she kind of started to like laugh, chuckle. Like, oh, what are you laughing about? And she's like, all right, like, this sounds really mean, but I thought like maybe like that was your coat.
Wow.
But yeah, and I think, I mean, again, it's nothing that people haven't heard before, right? In terms of, don't sweat the small things. Just in general life advice. Don't sweat the small things. Yeah, but until
you live it, it's tough to internalize.
Call people that, love you, like call your friends and say hello, be kind to people, like be grateful.
Yeah.
There's definitely instances now where I just feel very calm because I know, just how like close I was, or at least how I felt that I was.
Yeah.
Whether they were going to do it or not, it seemed very real that my time that was it.
Yeah. I mean, it is something you can draw on though. You know, in my experience, like you can actually, like you said, it gives you a certain calm where it's like, I've seen the extent of like what could happen.
Yeah.
And, it's the perspective.
Yeah.
It's that perspective is valuable. Not that you'd like hope, like I hope I get held up at gunpoint so I get some perspective.
Yeah.
But those experiences do provide that for better or for worse, I suppose.
Yeah.
Did you have to like, did you just go like after that, just go swim, or did you like?
Well, yeah, I mean, so they took my bag that had my wallet in it and keys in it. So then my first fear was that, like, because they had my keys and I didn't quite know if they knew where I'd walked out of or not. And so I knew, my fiance was still sleeping. So I was like, all right, well,
it's a whole nother fear.
We gotta like get out of here. Right. So then I remember just running back to the, so there's two bakeries that are really famous in Chicago. They're right next to each other. And one of the guys that works at one of the bakeries was the one that called the cops because he was like on the other side of the street and saw it happen. And then, they drove off and he rushed over, asked if I was okay. His name's Brandon. He works at Bari in Chicago.
Wow.
Shout out,
so
Brandon.
You know him.
I know him now.
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes if I'm having a bad day or if I'm stressed, like I'll go in there and just buy like a, candy bar or a, cool. Sandwich or whatever. Just like say hi to him.
Wow.
Because I don't know. I just feel grateful that he at least, he was the first human that I saw after it happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, he called the police and I just, I told him, where I lived. And then, so I had to wake Tanya up. And then I was like, hey, like we got to get out of here because I just don't know if they're going to come back or what's the deal. Because that was my fear, right? They were going to.
Sure. Yeah. They got your license.
Got my keys and
damn.
And the whole thing. But yeah, it had to get call my landlord and get the locks changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, like, how did it, how long do you think it was where you processed it and you're like, okay, I can draw strength from this versus like, think about the bad?
Probably, I mean, it took a couple months for sure.
Yeah.
It took a couple months. I mean,
yeah. I think everybody thinks sometimes you're going to sleep and you're like, your mind starts going in a bad direction.
Yeah.
And like, it's easy to say like, what if this, what if that?
Yeah.
For anybody, but if you've had an experience like that, I mean, you probably.
Yeah. I mean, it's just little things like I'll make sure like all the doors to the house are locked like twice before I go to bed.
Right.
It's just taking the trash out, like in the alley, just making sure, like, looking to your right, looking to your left, just making sure no one's lingering or there, nothing looks funny or what have you. So the ironic part is probably things that I should have been doing all along, or that anyone should do all along, but until you have a reason to, you're just, because most people go through their whole lives without something like that happening. Mm-hmm. So your guard's not up, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so I think that's the aspect that I now don't hate the most, right? Where I'll be like in a wine bar. I'm really into wine. And so I drink a lot of wine, collect a lot of wine, buy a lot of wine. It's a little ironic.
I was going to say, I want to figure this out because I like the fact that you can do triathlons and drink a lot of wine. That's encouraging. And I'll just be like, someone could come in here and something bad could happen. Yeah. Or something. I'll just, it's a fleeting moment or a thought. Then it goes away or what have you. And I think that is what I don't like. Yeah. Yeah. But it's almost sort of though, like what you were saying, like that stress. Yeah. It does make you actually take precautions that probably are logical for anybody to take anyway.
Yeah. But
wow. Yeah. Now, do you think so? You obviously you've had a lot of like risk and fear, and trading is every day, every second of the market, you're in fear. It's jumping off, doing a business, a lot of fear. Yeah. Doing triathlons. Yeah. I can't imagine like there's not some jitters in the belly on race day. Yeah. How would you relate sort of the fear of like this wild 1 in a million life and death thing popping out of a corner? Yeah. And these other fears where it's like you have some control. If not a lot of control, you have some control over your destiny, whereas when you have a gun to your head, you can't control shit. Yeah. So is there differences in the fear, like the way you would think about those? Or are there similarities? Are there things that helped you in either situation draw from the other, or are they just?
No, I would say a little bit. I mean, it's, I would say number one, just I feel like I wasn't as grateful for the opportunities to be able to take the risks before, where, I always kind of thought that I had the mind to be able to, handle it, manage it, like want to do it, like want to make it work. Mm-hmm. But I very much like wanted the success instantly or now, or, cause I was willing to, do whatever it took to try to get it. Whereas now I just know that, back to the timeline thing, if you just give yourself more time to let it work and to make it work and just, push the boulder up the hill just a little bit each day, right? Then, you can accomplish a lot over a long period of time. And so the fear is kind of dissipated a little bit, and I think after like the incident of just getting robbed, I was just grateful for the opportunity to be able to, work on the things that I was working on or wanted to do. Whereas I think before, even though it was my choice to do all those things, right. I wasn't, as like content or happy, because I just, nothing was like ever good enough, or it always could be a little bit better. You can, instead of training for 3 hours one day. It has to be 5 or 6, or instead of, you're just always like, pushing it and always trying to, like more isn't always better, I think, is what I've started to realize, when it comes to doing hard things too. Like you got to be able to like push and then kind of let it work for a little bit, and then kind of like stay there for a little bit, and then absorb it, and then kind of like push it to the next level.
That's awesome.
And I, I'm trying to get better at it. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to my fiance, she's like, he's just saying this because he's on a podcast. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard.
It
right?
is.
Like,
it's very hard. It is.
It's hard.
But I mean, if you're cognizant of it and you sort of make a deliberate effort to keep it in mind, it can go a tremendously long way.
Yeah, and I think I'm more content now with the things that I want to do. So then I know, like, if I'm just working on those things a little bit each day, whether it's training, building Liina, doing fun experiences with my fiance and spending time with her, or hanging out with friends, and but specifically like the work endeavor and building a life too. I think I am excited to build a life with Tanya just as much as I am to build Liina, or to maybe reach my training goals one day. Whereas before, it's just very much just like trying to push it to the limit every single day, because you think if you don't do it, someone's going to catch up to you, or you're not going to you're not going to succeed, or you're not going to get to where you want to go. But if you only have a few things that you're focusing on, and you're just doing them a little bit each day, like that's a lot different than if 1 month it's it's this hobby, and then 2 months later it's this hobby, and then it's this business venture, and then you went back to get a job, and then got a new job a year later, and then a new job a year later. Like it's cool. That works for some people, but you're not necessarily like building like proficiency in any one area. Whereas now I'm like content with, if I wake up a little bit later one morning to train because I was watching a show too late the night before, or
drinking wine,
or drinking wine, or or hanging out with friends, having a nice bottle of wine or something, then I'm okay with it more than I used to be, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
That is, that's wisdom.
Not
that's
like
pretty cool.
Not completely content.
Sure.
Still like a little bit of.
Oh yeah. Again, you don't want to go to the complacency side.
But like, I'm like, okay, that was, we had a great time and fun experiences last night.
Yep.
And then, okay, we're gonna bike today.
Yep.
It's not gonna be the best bike of all time.
Right.
But then the following day we're gonna get after it, and then the next day we're gonna get after it, and then if you're like, we're gonna keep getting after it 2 years or 3 years or 4 years down the line, it's like, who cares about one morning where maybe you didn't have the best workout of all time, or whatever.
Time and gratitude.
Yeah.
That's the theme that I'm picking up here, which is that's cool. Yeah. I think that's why I like having these conversations. I mean, honestly, this is like helpful for me, because I think I have a lot of the same problems, with like you feel this urgency, like if I don't win today, somebody else is going to come beat me. And again, it's good as a driver, but it can easily become unhealthy.
For sure.
And almost, I would say more often than not, it probably does.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to so if you set yourself up with unlimited time and you enjoy the ride, because you're not fighting like, okay, if I don't win today, I'm going to die. Like if I don't win today, I'll win tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you have to set it up like that, and you got to set your life up like that so that it's resilient. And if you do that, then you give yourself the space to be grateful for the moments.
Yeah, and maybe it's a half win, or like a little win, or what have you. I think
that's cool.
I mean, it's tough with social media now too, right? Like I do my best to try to, not, be on it as much, or
right.
I had to I basically started like a new Instagram, or I just started following like I think it was like pro cyclist and wine accounts or whatever, because it felt like the least invasive on my like day to day, psyche.
Yeah.
But I think like with just like, more often than not now, like you just see the highlight reels of, people's lives, or,
right.
Success, or, someone just like sells their business and then, goes on a podcast to talk about it or what have you, which they should do, but it sometimes it's just hard to get the full.
Yeah, it makes it seem like it happened quickly and it was easy.
And you don't, and I think like sometimes people don't know what they did to get there. Yeah. Right. Like you don't know if they have like, horrible relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
Whether they, been divorced 3 times, whether they, or, have some sort of like, addiction elsewhere, or like, you just, you don't, it's like, you got to take the whole person. Yeah. Right. So sometimes like from the outside looking in, you're like, you just, emulate the like achievement or success or what have you. But it's, it's the whole it's the whole picture. So sometimes when people are like, maybe jealous that they're not there, or think that they're not doing good enough because they didn't, reach whatever level of success in their mind, that same person is also, you're not, it's the whole thing. Like you gotta have the good and the bad.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
I mean, it's like,
you're right. Yeah. It's so, everybody wants to glamorize this extreme view of like, again, jumped off the cliff and built the airplane.
Yeah.
And
like, I can't take credit for this because I heard it on Chris Williams' podcast. But he was talking about, like his example of what I just said was with Tiger Woods. Like Tiger Woods growing up to me was like the ultimate, like I was obsessed with golf growing up, and like, the ultimate like athlete to me.
He is probably one of the.
But what he was saying is, yeah, sure, he's like one of the most dominant golfers of all time. Reach all these pinnacles of success, but also it's like failed marriage.
Right.
Had like incredible issues there, like incredible issues with his complicated relationship with his dad growing up.
Yeah.
Had the surgeries, got injured, got addicted to drugs, had more surgeries, got more addicted. Like,
yeah, no, it's true.
And
Steve Jobs
it's
famously,
the whole like it's
same.
So people are like, oh, I want to be that successful, but it's like, but are you willing to have everything that comes with it? Because it's like it's an all or nothing deal. It's not.
I like what Ray Dalio, Ray Dalio, the investor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, trader. You must know Ray Dalio.
Yeah, he's like the Yoda, investor Yoda.
But he has all of his little like one-liners.
Yeah, the principles.
Yeah. And I think one of them I loved. It was you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want.
Yeah.
Which is so true. You could become a billionaire if you really try, but you're probably gonna you may sacrifice a lot of other things. And it's interesting.
Yeah, I think you just gotta know. You just gotta have a idea of what you're like willing to give up and not.
Yeah,
and I think it changes throughout your life.
Definitely.
Whereas,
definitely,
I think, at least one for me. Like if I, let's say never make it to Kona one day, at least I'll know it wasn't for a lack of trying.
Sure. Sure.
And it, or maybe I don't ever break 10 hours in the Ironman, or maybe, we don't sell Liina for some sum that, fantasize about in our mind or whatever. But, but it doesn't mean that everything you did wasn't still a huge success too.
Absolutely.
And I think,
absolutely,
you got to be internally, just happy about like being able to just wake up every day and just kind of keep doing the things that you want to do. I think
that's awesome.
Yeah. Easier said than done though.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do you have an Ironman tattoo? Is that like a prerequisite?
I don't.
I didn't know they let you in the race without one. I thought it was like a barcode scanner.
Yeah. The problem is, I feel like this is like might be a hot topic, but it's like you do see them, right?
Oh, I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just felt.
I thought it was like a brand,
because like as long as you just finish it, like you can get one, right?
Yeah.
Right. But
like the 26.2 sticker on your car.
Yeah. So I don't have one, and I'm probably never gonna get one. I think I don't have any tattoos, but I thought maybe like if who knows down the line, but whatever maybe like your qualifying time is for like a huge race or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You get maybe in like super small letters or something, but
that's cool.
But back on the tattoo, so there's like in my master's group. There was a guy who won I don't swim with him. He swims many lanes over, but won the silver medal in the 4x200.
Whoa, that's cool.
And he has the Olympic rings on his shoulder.
Wow.
And I was like, I mean, my days of going to the Olympics are done, but but that is like an elite. That like is an elite club.
If you're in the Olympics, I think you are authorized to get.
Because I think that's the coolest. I always thought that was the coolest tattoo because you had that's one where like you got to earn that.
It's cool if you're in the Olympics. If you're not in the Olympics and you get one, you're just a big fan of the Olympics. So that's not as cool. But
yeah. So
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't have one though. But yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say about Liina or business or any other insight? I mean, this is awesome. Like the insights, honest to God, they've been helpful for me. I'm glad. Just to refresh, right? And I think that's why I like having these conversations because it's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, business, hobbies, whatever it is. Like, I mean, I feel like everyone has, the voice. Everyone knows what the thing is that they're too afraid to do. I think that's the thing. Mm-hmm. And so, you just got to listen to it every once in a while and just, even if it's like a small risk or step, just take it. Because, I've never heard of anyone that did it and then, went back and totally regretted not doing the thing that they were scared of doing.
That's awesome.
So
that's it right there in a nutshell. Cam, I appreciate it, man. This has honestly been a blast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
and I look forward to it. We'll do a follow up.
Yeah, sweet man.
Just very cool.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, man.